All right, gang, back on ClipFlow today. We're going to add policy scoping so that we can show, it's basically the authorization piece, so we can show users only records that they actually have permission to view. At the moment, we're just showing everything, which is obviously not a good idea. So let's jump in and have a look how we can do that. All right, so if you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm a big fan of Pundit. So let's jump in and grab that. So jumping to varvet/pundit, we just scroll down here and we're gonna go bundle add pundit. So we just jump in here to the terminal and we're gonna just go bundle add pundit, let that run, do its thing. Scroll down here to our gem file. You can see we've installed it over there. I might just move that under there, just so all stuff's together. All right, then the next thing we're gonna do here is let's include Pundit authorization in the application controller. So jump in here, right at the top, include Pundit authorization, all right? Now we're gonna go Rails G Pundit install. So I'm just following the manual. There we go, it's created the app policies, application policy for us right there. So that's just in here. All right, so we can see that. Now, the first policy that I want to do, so let's just boot up here again. Bin dev, run that. Here we go. So we got our ideas. Now what we want to do is we want to scope these down, because I think at the moment you can see here we've got these ones from the Gorilla user, which is a funny user, but that user is 5 and that user belongs to organization 8. All right, so I'm logged in as user 2, which is organization 1. We should not be able to see these things, all right? So let's scope them down. So the first piece we're gonna add is Rails G policy. I believe, was it Pundit policy? Let's just see. Rails G Pundit policy. So, okay, so it's Pundit policy right there. Fix that up. And we wanna do it for an idea. Right? So that's gonna now generate our idea policy. So if we jump into that one, right here, here's our scope, all right? So now what we wanna do is we wanna add a scope. So it's currently scoped to resolve all, right? So that's the default. So if we now go and add that into our controller, we go to ideas, and we just go now here. This is where we're gonna change it. So instead of idea.all, we're now gonna go policy scope, idea, right? And that's gonna do exactly the same thing. So let's just see that that's working. Okay, so we need to just make sure we just fix, okay, undefined method current user. We need to fix this up as well, okay? Because it's looking for the current user, which is from device, but we're not using device, we're using our own authentication mechanism. So I'll show you how to do a custom one there. All right, so to add our own one, what we're gonna do, own override, we're gonna go Pundit user, right? And then all we're gonna do here is current.user, because that's what this is how we define our user. Let's see if that works. There we go, all right? So we're just telling Pundit to use this as when it's looking for the current user. All right, so now we've got our user and everything's working as it should. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna say, we need to look at the user role. Let's see if we have a user role. I don't know if we do yet. Users don't have roles. So users, at the moment, we've only got the one type of user, which is basically an organization user. But what I wanna do here is I'm gonna add roles, because we wanna have admins who can view anything. And we're gonna also have organization users who can only view things within their organization. So let's add those roles. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna go Rails G model and we're gonna go role. I like to store this in the DB. All right, so we've created the roles table. Jump in here, create roles. We're gonna have t.string, and that's the title. And we're gonna have t.string, and that's gonna be the key. I use the key so that when we find or create, like seed them, we can look them up and we won't recreate the same thing. So really just title and key at this stage. So let's go run that. We're gonna go Rails DB migrate, run that. All right, so now what I wanna do here is I wanna add seeds. So I've done this before in another project, so I'm just gonna quickly grab that from the construction manager project we did recently. So let me find that, it's in DB seeds, and then we look for roles. All right, and I'm gonna just chuck that in here. All right, so we got admin. We don't have client users in this thing, and we don't have users. So we're just gonna have admins and organization users to start. So we're find or creating by the key. All right, so we can keep the keys the same, and then if we ever want to change the titles, we can do that. All right, so let's add those roles in there. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go Rails DB seed, and let's run that. Now we can jump in here. We've got our roles table now. Can have a look. There we've got admin and organization user. Perfect. All right, so now what we need to do, we also need to add a new migration. So we're gonna go Rails G migration, and we're gonna say add role to user, okay? To users, I should say. Now we're gonna go in here and we're gonna go say add reference, users role, and then I think we can say true, just because we do have users right now. Yeah, we do have users, so it'll create a problem for us if we left that as false. So we go Rails DB migrate quickly. All right, let's have a look. So now we should have on the users table role ID big int, and it is indexed. Awesome, and they're all set to nothing right now. Okay, so we've migrated our roles. Now what we can say here in the models, we're gonna say user, and we're gonna say belongs to role, okay? So now you can go user.role. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add little helper methods. Again, I'm gonna just copy these from a previous project just to save time. So if we go to user, and then so I'm gonna say, are you an admin? So it's just gonna be user.admin question mark. And then it's if your role key is admin, that's gonna return true. Are you an organization user? Same concept, all right? Now inside of our application policy, right? So we're gonna go jump inside of here. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some helper methods as well. So I'm gonna add admin. And then really this is just gonna be user.admin, all right? Pretty simple. But it's just another thing, so we don't have to call user.admin every single time inside of these policies. We're gonna say organization user, and then that's just the same thing. It's just gonna call the method, but you can have other checks in here as well if you want. So we've got that now. Now inside of our policy, and the reason we did all that is so that we can add the if statements here. So depending on what type of role you are, you will have different scopes. Okay, so what we're gonna do here now, so we're gonna say if admin, I think we actually have to define it like this in here, inside the scopes. If user.admin, else, and, so else if user.organization user, and then else, finally we have an else, that's the bottom. Now what we're gonna do is if you're an admin, so an admin of this system of Clipflow, you can see everything. That's just how we're gonna allow. If you're not any of these things, you're gonna have scope.none. So that'll turn an empty relation. If you are an organization user, this is where it gets interesting. So now we're gonna say scope. Right, so now let's have a look at how these things work. So an organization user, you're gonna be a user who's gonna have many organizations, right? And then how do ideas connect? So let's have a look. Ideas have a channel ID on them. So it needs to be through the channel. So it's gonna be, you're gonna belong to an organization, and then you're gonna have a channel, and then you're gonna have an idea. Okay, so we need to create the where clause for that. Okay, so to start with that one, we're gonna go scope.joins. So the scope, current scope is sort of be ideal.all.joins, and this will be channel. All right, so let's do this the way that I like to do it inside of the Rails C, because it just allows us to visualize and debug as we go. So to begin, we're gonna have idea.all. So that's our current scope, right? That's an admin scope. Then from there, we're gonna say joins channel, right? So that works, so that's all good. So that's good. So now from there, we can say joins. From there, we're gonna join on. So once we're inside of channels, we should be able to join organization. All right, so we're gonna do a nested join there. Okay, so we can actually do, let's just try this. So it's joins channel. I think it's channels. Let me just see. No, it's channel. And then from there, we're gonna say organizations. Can't join channel. Let's just have a look at what's going on here. It might be channels. Oh no, can't join channel to associate name organizations. So it's actually organization. Sorry. There we go. So we're now joining. So let's have a look. You can see here. So we got select ideas. Inner join channels. So we're joining the channel on the idea, channel ID. And then we're joining organizations on the channels at organization ID. Perfect. Okay. So now we're getting there. Let's just get out of that. So far we can add this guy in. So we know that's it there. So now I've joined the organization. And then what we want to say is where, right? We want to say where organizations, I guess we could say is the same as the user organizations. Let's just double check. Column ideas. Okay. Yeah, I need to do this. I need to say where, oh yeah, it's asking for that property. So it's organizations ID. There we go. All right, so what do we have? Let's look. Joining the channel. We're joining the ID on the channel. It's joining the organization. Then we're going, we want to find where organizations ID is in the user's organizations, right? So Rails Active Record is going to do some magic there and take the IDs from that. You can see it here. Organizations ID is equal to organizations users dot organization ID, where organizations users dot user ID is the one that we are providing. So it's doing a whole bunch of tidy up on the SQL, and it's one of the reasons I love Active Record when you know how to use it properly. All right, so let's grab this. And I just want to shout out, I don't know how to use it 100% properly. I know it a little bit, or quite well, but not as much as I should. So now what we're going to say here is just update this to user.organizations, right? So now if we're an organization user, we're going to get the join and then we're going to scope it down, all right? So let's see. So here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got Gorilla and Jimmy Jones in there. If we refresh, that was a lame demo. Bin dev, refresh. We got nothing now. Okay, is that because we've made a mistake or I've actually not done something correctly? So what I'm interested to see here is I can't see the SQL happening. So there could be possibly be an error where the user is actually nil. So let's just have a look. I might not be logged in. No, we are logged in. Let me have a look. I have a hunch. So we created a role on a user, but the users don't have any roles. So if we go user.first.role, nil. Okay, so all of our users are going to have none. So we're going to go user.update all. We're going to say role ID, and we're going to just set that. So when we create a user, we need to make sure that we're doing this as well. And we're going to set that to organization user, right? So that is 2. There we go. So now, there we go. We're on. All right, we're still seeing this one by the Gorilla Man himself. So make a video about modeling. Let's check out if that idea. So all of these ideas belong to channel 1. So that's okay. So that user was able to create a idea for the wrong channel because we didn't have scoping. And this is channel 2, the latest on X. But you can see that that is actually not there. So channel 2, that should be there. The latest on Twitter X. I wonder why that one's not showing. Let me just see here. So test. Yep, can't see that one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that one's not coming through. So that's user ID 1. Okay, well that makes sense because user ID 1 doesn't belong to the organization. So that's perfect. That makes perfect sense. But now if we change some of this stuff, so let's go create a new channel. I guess the easiest way to see this is if we logged in as someone else. But I think what we could do is let's create a new channel. The title is private channel. All right, and we need that needs to belong to an organization. So let's make that organization Gorilla Mind. So that's organization ID 8. All right, so now we've got our private channel. Channels, private channel. Okay, so now if we change some of these ideas, so this Gorilla one, so make a video about modeling and test new idea, that should belong to channel 3. 3. Now if we refresh, there we go, they're gone. Okay, sweet. So that's all working, that's all scoped now. So we can only see the ideas that belong to our channels, which belong to our organizations, and that's it. So it's all scoped and no one can see anything they shouldn't. All right, so that's pretty simple. But another one thing that we will quickly have a look at is seeing if we can add policy scoping to channels. So let's do that. All right, so now I'm jumped into the channels page here, and you can see I've got 3 channels, but we know that if we jump into the DB, only 2 of the channels belong to my organization, organization 1. The other one is organization 8, and I do apologize for how small that font is. I can't make it any bigger, but we do know there's a problem here, okay? And what I will do is I'll just go into our views quickly, channels, and then let's just add the channel title here so you can actually see what the title's called. There we go. So we've got the prime time, fit for production, and a private channel. So we shouldn't see private channel. So let's go and fix that scope. So what do we need to do? You guys tell me. We need to go Rails G, Pundit, policy, and now we're looking for channel. Smash that out, done. Policies, channel policy, and I'm just gonna let's get rid of this. We don't need a comment there. Let's grab this resolve method, chuck it in here. Same thing, scope all, cool. Organization user, right, so what does that look like? Channel has organization ID, so we don't need to do any joining, and we can literally just do a where. So what we're gonna say is where organization, and then we can say user organizations. Let's see if that works, all right? So now we've got that channel policy, jump into the controller. We've got the channel all here. Now what we want to do is go policy scope and just remove all. Let's see. There we go. Done. All right, so that's how simple it is to scope things. And it's super important for authorization, I guess multi-tenanted applications, which is most things, we have organizations, and just allowing the user only to see the records, the organization they belong to. From there, what we can do with policy, so that's scoping, and that's like basically restricting the data set. But then the next step from there is we can add for each method of the controller. So if it's create of a controller, we can then also say, you can only create something if the thing that you're creating is for the channel that you belong to, all right? So the simplest way to do this is we're gonna just say, so we're gonna look for the record, right? So we're gonna say record dot organization, right? So when we're creating a channel, the record organization must include, user.organizations must include the record organization. If it doesn't include that, it's not valid. So we can test that over here in Rails C. So we're gonna say user equals user.find to user.organizations. So if we go organization IDs, there's 1. So I only have 1 organization. Now if we try create a record, so we're gonna say record equals channel.new, and then we're gonna say organization ID is 3, right? And then we're going to say user.organizations dot include record.organization. Let's see what it says. Wrong argument type organization. Okay, sorry, it needs to say include like that. Sorry, I just didn't use the question mark. User organization include record organization, false. So what'll happen is when we call this create method, it's gonna fail and say, sorry, you can't do this because you're not authorized to do so. Because you can't create channels for organizations you don't belong to. So that's a very simple way. So if we now change this record to ID 1 and run it again, you now get a true. And that allows us to go through and do everything we need to do. All right, so that's for create. Now, that's a very quick run through of the authorization piece, but we're gonna be using this all throughout the project because we need to make sure that our users are only seeing what they're allowed to see. So that's that, and I'll catch you on the next one.